They actually did it. I cannot believe they actually did it. Mortis is getting a buff. Balance changes. So today's video is taking place over here in the dev build because these changes are not yet live. You can expect them to roll out on Tuesday here, so just in a couple days. Now I gotta be frank with you all, this is quite the impactful list of balance changes if you ask me. Not only is my favorite brawler getting a tweak here, a pretty substantial buff, but what I've noticed with the last few patches on the dev team side of things is they've been taking a bit more risks, tweaking brawlers that don't necessarily get a lot of attention here, which is super exciting. It feels like you're venturing into uncharted territories here. But I don't want to waste any more time with you all here. We're starting off with the buffs, which there are far more nerfs on this list, but the buffs are pretty dang cool. The very first one is going to Tara here. So Tara's getting tweaked in two different very important areas for her character. Number one, her cards. Her attack is dealing more damage. At power level 1, each card is dealing 40 more damage. So from 440 to 480 when at level 11, we can see each card dealing 720. So if you land all 3 of your cards here with Tara, she's going to deal a whopping 2,160 damage. You Tara mains out there, rejoice, because she doesn't get tweaked all that much in the damage department. But that's not all. On top of that, her most important aspect to her kit, her super, is going to be easier to get. Instead of taking 12 hits, it's going to take 11. So in retrospect, it's still going to take 4 shots to get a full super if you're landing 3 cards at once. But a lot of the time with Tara, you're dealing that poke damage trying to charge up your super, and the most optimal way to do so, I see a lot of Tara mains doing, is trying to get 2 cards to land at once. So it's going to be much easier basically to get your super just with that poke damage, right? And just the recycle ability is going to be far better here with this character. Really excited about Tara because she really doesn't get tweaked a whole lot here in Brawl Stars, but the one I'm most excited for, my absolute favorite brawler in the entire game. Much like Tara, Mortis is getting a basic attack damage increase, a whopping 40 more damage when at level 1. So from 900 to 940, when maxed out, he's dealing 1,410 per basic attack. I play Mortis a lot, and I seriously cannot remember a time where Mortis didn't do that 1,260 when maxed out before power level 11, or the 1,350 matching the same damage as a super when power level 11 was a thing. This is huge and a wild card balance change if you ask me. Kind of what we saw in the list when the first patch came out with the update, when Shelley got a big change to her movement speed. What we see a lot of the time with balance changes in this game is the dev team somewhat avoiding brawlers that have a bit more impact in the game. So higher use rate brawlers that are easier to obtain, so like your Shelleys. Mortis also fits into this equation, not because he's a lower rarity brawler, he's a mythic for goodness sakes, but for the longest time, he has had the highest use rate by far amongst all the other brawlers here in this game. So a weird change to this character, making him insane, would really impact the meta. So because of this, I feel like the most bit of buffs that we've seen for Mortis is just a health tweak. So it's insane that Mortis is dealing 1,410 damage now, man. His damage being where it was so set in stone for such a long time that I just got used to how much damage he was dealing. So it kind of was pretty easy to tell how many attacks it was going to take down a person before going in, where now it's going to be a relearning game where we're dealing 1,410, a whopping 60 more damage at level 11 than the Mortis beforehand. It's gonna be so dang strange getting used to his super dealing less damage than his basic attack, but I love it. Thank you, Brawl Stars, for the tweak, and for any of you guys who don't like those like really bad Mortis players out there, it's gonna take a little bit of testing. Hopefully this doesn't impact that too much, but you know, at the end of the day, if Mortis is better, maybe it'll help the randoms that don't necessarily know how to play him super well. So looking forward to seeing how he performs in the meta. Mortis, my man. I took a little bit longer on Tara and Mortis, seeing that I feel like those are really cool changes, but now let's get into the rest. Next up, we're getting quite a few buffs to Willow here. An amazing first change to her super: mind controlled enemies no longer charge up their super when you're using them. Such a good change. I feel like sometimes I didn't want to use Willow's super on individuals when a super is really impactful for an enemy team, so this is going to be so good for her. On top of that, Willow is is getting a super range increase from 23 to 25. And then on top of that, when mind controlling a unit, we really can't display this in Training Cave because you can't control robots. But when controlling someone, you're going to take 25% less damage. So a bit more safe when you're controlling someone. Next up, our boy 8-Bit is actually getting a health buff. He's turning into one tanky boy here, now at 7,500 at power level 11, getting a 200 health increase at base power level 1 from 4,800 to 5,000. I feel like most of the tweaks that come 8-Bit's way is to his health, so not a super big surprise here, but anything helps with this character. And that's it for the buffs. Time to get into the nerfs. 3 different changes to Janet, dude. Oh my goodness. Lots of tweaks to her drop the base gadget here, one of her most powerful assets, I would say. Instead of having 1,500 HP, it now has 1,000. And on top of that, the health decay is 100 HP per tick here. So we'll see what that does to her gadget. And it doesn't stop there. Another significant nerf to her attack damage. At power level 1 from 1,000, it is now dealing 940. With this, in turn, it takes 7 shots to get your super as opposed to 6. So, dude, Janet is getting quite the substantial nerf here overall. That's for dang sure. Max is next on the nerf chopping block. The very first change is to her HP. When maxed out, it's sitting at 4,500, getting a 200 health nerf here at power level 1 from 3,200 to 3,000. She's also getting a damage nerf, a 20 damage reduction at power level 1 from 340 to 320 when maxed out, dealing 480. And on top of that, it's going to take 1 extra shot to charge up your super from 13 shots to 14. Moving along here, I think we all kind of saw this coming. Meg, with recent changes in this last update, she's been getting tweaked quite a lot, getting a few more nerfs. The Meg HP at power level 1 is getting a 300 HP decrease from 4,000 to 3,700, while on top of that, Jolting Volts only heals 300 HP per second for 5 seconds here, as opposed to 450. I think warranted here. This gadget is a no-brainer. You always bring in this gadget. I don't see anyone ever using this, and Meg is pretty dominant in the meta. I think we're kind of trying to get to a baseline after her most recent changes here. She still feels very strong with her newest abilities. Next up, Shelley, the brawler that went from probably one of the worst characters in the entire game, never getting buffed or anything like that, to one of the more crazier changes I've seen in a long time, and that is a movement speed increase. She felt so much better with this change, so it makes sense that she's getting a few tweaks here. The very first one is to her Shell Shock star power. The slow once lasted 4.5 seconds, and it now only lasts 2 seconds. While on top of that, she's getting a very slight HP decrease when at power level 1, 3,800 to 3,700, so just 100 HP. So we'll see what goes down with Shelley. I think she's still going to be pretty good. Oh boy, next up we have Surge getting quite the substantial nerf as well. And believe it or not, they decided to hone in on Power Shield, a very good gadget for Surge, getting 2 changes. The duration is now only lasting 2 seconds from 5 seconds, so you're going to have to muster up a bit more skill technically when a shot is coming in order to protect yourself and gain that extra ammo. While on top of that, it's getting a damage reduction nerf as well, from 80 to now only 50. It was a phenomenal gadget. I think it was warranted, but we'll see how this impacts him. Moving along to Penny, she is getting 2 different nerfs. The very first one to her HP, a 200 HP reduction when at power level 1, now at power level 11 having 4,800, and her Salty Barrel gadget is getting a 500 HP nerf as well, only at 1,500 now from 2,000. Next up, we've got Ash on the chopping block, just getting a 200 HP nerf here when at power level 1, now here at a level 11, 7,800. We'll see what this does. And then finally, we actually have a nerf to B. B, in my opinion, is one of the most polarizing brawlers here in the game. Countless meta, she's been really, really good. And where they decided to nerf her is to her super recharge rate. It now takes 4 shots in order to get your super as opposed to 3, which was insane if you really think about it, given how many shots she can rip out. Just getting 3 shots landed, having a super. I think she's still going to be pretty dang good in the meta, but it's nice to to see a nerf coming our way. But that wraps up our list here. Definitely honing in on the nerfs as opposed to the buffs here, but it's pretty dang cool to see these rarer changes coming into full swing with these most recent lists of balance changes, where with a brawler like Mortis, I feel like they really relied on tweaking other brawlers, getting indirect buffs and nerfs to make sure these more problematic or substantial brawlers in the meta would maybe get shifted around like that. But it's cool to see more direct changes like this from time to time, and I cannot wait to test them out. But there you have it, everyone. Once again, these changes are coming live in game on Tuesdays, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I'm sure it'll be fun to test out all of these significant changes. But yeah, be sure to let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below. What are you most excited for with this list? And of course, thank you all for watching. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Keep having fun with Brawl Stars, and we'll see you all in the next one. Adios and take care.